That's halfway there.
Hi,
Hello, Nick.
Nick. Hey,
Let's
Gary.
see.
Good afternoon. Greg, good to see you too, as the new
Greg.
retiree, relatively speaking.
yourself with proper safety glasses
Can you
or
hear that?
specialized viewing equipment.
Nope, there's no
Yeah.
video.
Never look directly at
I can hear it.
Yeah.
And when you hit share, there's a little button on the bottom, a checkbox that says share sound and optimize for video. You can check both of those boxes.
Okay, that's why I wanted to do it now before the meeting started, just for that reason. Okay, share sound, right? And then optimize for video?
Yep.
Okay, I did that.
Gary, I have a quick question.
Sure, Greg.
I might switch my QTH and go over to Peely Island for the event. So just submit another form. Is that what it says?
Well, I mean, is it, I'm trying to remember which form you submitted with, for the QSO party or for what?
The party, I believe, yeah.
No, you're fine, you're fine.
Because my coordinates will be different. So yeah. So
That's okay. The main thing is the log you submit in the after. So we were just trying to get a rough idea of who was going to be where before the contest, so you're fine.
yeah, there's less noise over there. It's much better to operate over there. So yeah.
I believe it. We're
It's
seeing your video, Ron.
Yep.
All right, I'm just gonna start it really quick and then I'll stop it.
at the sun or use binoculars.
Okay, did that come through?
Yep.
Thanks.
Yep. Yep. My prayers have been answered.
All right, I'm done.
So you might have to hit stop sharing, Ron.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, we got to pay you the full amount for
Yeah.
the video.
There we go.
That better? Okay,
I'll cue you, Ron, at the appropriate time.
no problem. I forgot to stop. So.
Well, it's 4 o'clock. I've actually got quite a few things on the agenda, and I was actually hoping we end a little bit earlier because I've got some Grape One website stuff I'd like to look at that everyone's welcome to look at with me in the thing or whatever. But
Yep.
we've got the recording going, so let me share my screen and put the agenda up. All right, let's see. So today being the 5th of October, hard to believe we've been at this for well over a year getting ready for this event. And this is really just a precursor to the big event in
The
April.
big one,
So
right?
kudos for us for being well prepared.
Woo.
Yeah, let's
And
see.
the moon will
There we go.
cooperate, so we have to worry about it.
That's right. We've got our usual PR topics. We had a couple of good things to talk about. Ed, the ARL partnership has been working out pretty well.
Very nice.
Talk about our scoring and whatnot. I've got some questions on the file uploads. I'm not sure if Steve will hear, but the TDOA event is going along pretty well. Some science topics, one of which is assigned to me, and the grape stuff if we get to it a little bit. So Ed, you wanna start?
This is
it off?
busy, so yeah, this is busy. So yeah, I'll try to move through it pretty quickly. So good afternoon, everybody. So we've been busy, okay, and I think we've got some good things to report. Hello, Mary Lou. With about a week, 9 days to go, I guess. So just to quickly recap in terms of publications, because obviously we were away last week, but just in terms of looking at October, the current issues of magazines and digital publications as to where we are. There's a story thanks to Gary in QST, a story thanks to Gary on the air. We had a story in CQ in the September issue. Nick got us a post and a story in the SW Welling Post. Ron, thank you very much. Okay, got us a cover story in the Spectrum Monitor. Nick got us a story in CIDX Monitor and a story also in Medium Wave News in the UK. And we were also a pickup on the ICQ podcast in the UK. I'm going to miss something here, but it'll probably come back to me. Okay, is that we put out reminders on both the PR and the section manager reflectors That was done as late as last night and on they're all running together today on Wednesday morning. So they're out there as well too. There are ads running on the ARL.org website through the 14th of October. So that's in terms of publications and what we've got going. The ARL was very, very helpful to us in the last week. If you're on their mailing list, okay, is that the ARL letter had us as the lead story regarding the SEQP. We were also the lead story on the ARL homepage going into Monday morning, which was great. We got a story in the ARL, blurb on the ARL letter, a blurb on the ARL contest calendar, which is great. Also a blurb on the ARL calendar. Gary was featured on the ARL podcast. Take a bow. Okay, our first bow. Okay, in terms of podcasts overall. So I'll save our most recent piece. The only piece that I'm sort of missing that's ARL related is the K7RA propagation bulletin. I have basically pulled my hair out, what little I have left, to try and get to Tad, to get a blurb in. And I know that the league has also done some work. I understand he's not feeling well. So, I mean, but I've written him every week. I know Sierra's done some outreach to him. So hopefully we'll have something, either obviously it's got to be this week or next week going into it. So, I mean, that's the only blank piece that I've got from the league. We've also got on board, if you missed 2 weeks ago, is that Radio Amateurs of Canada have also signed on, with us, and through Alan Griffin from their office. And if you noticed over the last couple of days, the homepage features 2 stories on the solar eclipse with cross reference to us, as part of that. Just in terms of publicity, going on right now, is we hit a home run day before yesterday. The league got back to me because they track a lot of the media stuff that goes on, and let us know that the CNN Newswire picked us up, and 21 affiliates have picked us up as part of the original release on the wire. So that's pretty good. So that's going to move a lot of stuff around. Other stuff we've got a story up regarding Nathaniel on QRZ. I just checked right before we came on. We've got over 1,000 viewers on, for the post that's up there. We had a piece last week on Amateur Radio Newsline. Coming up as well, starting on October 8th, is we've got posts in amateurradio.com, Amateur Radio Newsline, which we'll post on Monday. QRZ with sort of a 1 week to go blurb. And I mentioned Amateur Radio Newsline, and also Ham Radio World, which I never realized was a pretty big contest site, particularly for European DXers as well too. So, and they've agreed that they're going to pick something up for us on October 8th. The agency has done fine business job, right, Nathaniel? Overall, in terms of the work that they've done with us. Just a quick review. American what do we say? National Geographic, right? Had a link to the website. BBC Learning, fingers crossed. Washington Post had picked this up earlier. NASA, nice story by Mackenzie. Home run there. So that's really great. And Popular Science also picked this up as a blurb as well this month. So I think that's basically where we are. And obviously, Mackenzie's been doing some posts every day, and a lot of the stuff has moved around. I lost count at about 25 or 30 clubs that had linked to her site, and obviously that's not all of them. I only see just, I guess, the ones that are sort of cross-linked to me. So, I mean, that's basically where we are, but we do have one surprise, because Ron and I have been talking about how we get Space Weather Woman, okay, to cooperate with us with her propagation piece. And just to show you, I'm chopped liver. My note didn't work, but Ron's did. So, Ron, over to you, okay, because I know you got a copy of the video that she did for us, which I think is also a home run. So, Ron, over to you. Audio.
Yeah, works a lot
There we
better.
go.
I don't think there's a lot of lip readers out there. Let's see. Optimize, share. Are you seeing it now?
We are.
Okay, you're going to hear just a quick lead in so that I get the full thing. It takes, it's only about a minute, but here it goes. This is her.
To view the eclipse unless they are specially designed for solar events. But if you are looking for a very unique way to experience the eclipse, walk over to hamsci.org because they'll be hosting a solar eclipse QSO party during the event. So be sure to check out their website and see how you can participate. With HamSci, not only will you be able to see the eclipse, but you'll actually be able to hear its effects and experience firsthand how space weather generated during a solar eclipse can dramatically affect radio communications here at Earth. This will give you an entirely new perspective of what weather truly means in the 21st century and how it affects our modern world. But above all, stay safe and have fun.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So,
I'm gonna
Nice.
send with an email right now thanking her.
yeah, I did both. She sent me an email telling me that she was putting it in. We had been emailing about what to do and everything. And then I also, on her patron page, on one of her patrons, on her patron page, I put it out publicly for all the other patrons to see and thanked her on that page as well. So
Yeah.
Well, it's great. It just shows you just when you look at relationships and everything else. I mean, this is good PR, all around. So, I mean, that's where we are, guys and gals. Okay. I mean, hopefully, obviously, as Nick pointed out the other day in terms of some of the medium wave DX stuff, obviously, publicity's got to translate into interest and participation. So we'll see that obviously as we go down the road the next couple of weeks. But yeah, I mean, that's where we are. And I mean, if anybody, just the post for next week will be more, in terms of the timely pieces like QRZ, amateur radio newsline, that type of thing, as well as I'll be posting out all the DX and ham radio and digital blogs, okay, on Facebook, etc. Okay, just to get a word in and a reminder. So, I mean, that's where we are. So, I guess it's over. Where's Gary? There he is. Over to you, Gary. AFAA. So,
No, that's fantastic. I think you mentioned Facebook briefly. Mackenzie's been posting a lot of stuff
Yep.
up there, and she's been looking at the numbers. And I think we've had something like 20,000 views in our last few Facebook
Yep.
posts. It was funny when I was talking to Bruce Horn last week about the log uploader. He goes, "Well, how many logs do you think you're going to get?" I said, "Well, last time it was 566." I said, "But we're promoting this pretty heavily, so we could easily have double that, and then who knows?" So we're having a lot of touch points with a lot of people. So
no
it'll be
pressure.
interesting to see what the numbers are.
Yeah, no pressure.
The other thing that Mackenzie was helping with too, I know, Nathaniel, you've had a couple of interviews or are working on some articles with the AGU, right? The EOS
Mhm.
magazine,
Yep.
both domestically and in the Central South America region too. Is that correct?
That's right. Yes. So there's one reporter. Well, actually, there's two reporters. They're doing two different stories. So I think one is just going to be about the solar eclipse QSO party and like the ham size stuff. I think the other article, we're going to be like part one project in a number of projects regarding the eclipse. But the reporter that I think the one that's doing just us, I think her name is Kim, and she was
Yes.
very interested in what's going on in South America as well. So I connected her with Mackenzie, who also provided me with a nice list of her contacts in South America. So I haven't heard if they followed up on any of that, but they could be talking. And Kim is also looking for a SEQP site to visit in the Washington, D.C. area on the day of the event. And so Ed is working diligently with all of his contacts to try and find a place for this reporter to go.
So, yep.
Yeah.
And just on one other piece is that we've got 4 presentations scheduled in the next week with various clubs. So, and obviously if we want to get the word out, we can still do it, right up to it. Then we'll pick it up right after the event and right after the first event as well too. So
That's great. And this is nice too, because we're getting, AGU is the newspaper and the media that is read by the scientists. So that American Geophysical Union, that's the big conference that we go to every December and present at. So that media will actually reach scientists.
Yep.
A lot of these other ones, Washington Post, BBC, that's going to reach mass media. And then it's nice that we're getting the ARRL and CQ and all of the Tamitha, Space Weather Woman, all those people to reach the hams. So it looks I think we have a good, nice spectrum of
Yeah, it's good relationships, and I'm particularly
Yeah.
pleased when you saw, like in the ARL letter last week, where they called the league a proud partner with us. Okay, that's really good language from a PR
Are-
standpoint. So
Are we doing enough to thank the league for
yes, and we'll follow specifically. So yep. In fact, I've got a note into Dave, okay, regarding what we want to do following up with that. So I'll keep you in the
That's,
loop on that.
I want
That's
them
Dave
to know
Minster,
how
right?
much
Yeah, Minster. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah.
I want them to know how much we appreciate their media push here.
Yep. And they brought us to rack, and obviously that piece came together right just almost immediately. So that was really good.
Great.
So yep. That's it from here.
Fantastic. Okay. That is a lot. I mean, it's we've gone from relative I wouldn't say obscurity, because Hamside definitely is pretty well known, but nothing compared to what we're going to be after this eclipse, and then what we're going to be doing for April too. I mean, this is just we're just ramping up. So I think the best is yet to come. Thanks to everybody's efforts.
I told Gary in an email, we were talking about this and how it's taking off. And I said, boy, after this eclipse, I'm looking forward to next April, everybody better just fasten their seatbelts.
We'll have room for even more logs and whatnot to come in next April. I'm sure of that too. So
Yeah, this is John in Memphis. I'm going to be down in Corpus Christi for the eclipse, and I've had a couple of options come up. One is to record the WWV on the carrier Lexington. They have a ICOM 7300 set up, and I could just stick an SDR into the radio, and I think it's. Do I set it at 9.999? On the frequency, or just at 10 megs, and then just do USB if I wanted to record the changes that occur.
well, if 9.999, that's kind of it sounds like the Doppler experiment that we're running with the grapes, and that takes a little bit more equipment than just recording it off a receiver. I know we're looking at receiving IQ data on a number of stations around the world, and I'm not that familiar with the technology behind that. If somebody else can speak up to that.
I wonder, John, maybe you'd be interested in working with Steve on his experiment here, because his experiment allows you to transmit chirps, and it's specifically designed to work with amateur gear that's not GPS disciplined. So it may be a nice opportunity for you to try to make some QSOs and make some recordings that way.
Well, I've got two actually. I've got one GPS disciplined clock that Whit Reeve up in Alaska made, and I'm going to use that on the laptop. And I've also got a GPS disciplined clock that goes in the ICOM 7100 for their GPS, but I don't think I can use it on the 7300.
Okay. Yeah, I think if you can use it, you'd want the 7300 to be GPS disciplined in order to really make meaningful measurements that way, I think.
Yeah, I think that one's going to require a card, so that isn't going to happen to it would be their radio and not mine. So
that's what I wonder. I wonder if you might be able to do. You might be a better fit for the TDOA experiment, where that doesn't require GPS discipline. You just need to be able to play recordings over the sound card.
Okay, well, I can do that. I've got the other option is that I've got the Barrett transceiver that has a GPS built into the vertical auto-tune antenna that I'm going to be using, and it's 1 pulse per second, so I can discipline at least the transceiver and then just port that out through signal link into the computer, and then do Audacity. It's what I did when I did the eclipse back in, what was it, 2019 down in Antarctica. So, and it was, even though I couldn't see it because of the cloud cover, it was a very dramatic shift as you got through, near to and then after the eclipse itself. And I hope our lady PhD Christina, I hope she had a chance to listen to that. So
Well, I think Nathaniel makes a good suggestion about this TDOA event, because aside from transmitting, we also need stations to receive. Steve and a few others will be transmitting from mostly from the Texas, but under the or near the eclipse paths. And they're actually going to be doing a dry run again this Saturday that Steve will probably talk about in a little bit. So you can listen into that, try to do some recordings and see how successful we were this Saturday before you travel to the eclipse.
okay,
John,
yes,
some other things you could do with your GPS disciplined radios, certainly watch the carriers of WWV. During the last eclipse in 17, Steve Ryer recorded some really, really good Doppler data on 10 megahertz WWV that, when processed, gave a real good correlation with what an ionoson measured, the change in ionization height. So since you've got a GPS disciplined radio, you could watch Doppler, and since you've got that 1 PPS output, that rising edge is perfectly aligned with the exact moment those timing ticks leave the towers at WWV. You could do a no kidding time of flight measurement. See, this TDOA thing is what we're doing so that we don't have to have all that discipline. But since you've got it, if you were to, you could watch time of flight data from WWV, and that would tell a lot about what's going on. It would really profile the changes in path lengths. You'd have to characterize the time delays though through your radio, especially if it's got any DSP processing. That can be quite long, longer than the transit time actually.
yeah, it's the Barrett is an SDR, and it would go basically. I'd have the links would be the output, audio output going through the signal link, and then that would go into the laptop, and then it would be recorded on Audacity. And then I was actually planning on setting that up about 2 or 3 hours prior to, and then 3 hours after the actual eclipse. And what is the carrier frequency for WWV?
Well, they're at 2.5, 5, 10, 15, and sometimes 20 megahertz.
Yeah, well, if I'm on 10, what is the actual dial? Not so much the carrier frequency. What is the dial frequency on the radio?
A common technique is to tune your radio in upper sideband mode down 1 kilohertz, and that frequency translates the carrier to a 1000 cycle audio tone. And then you can analyze the heck out of that with the sound card spectrum analyzer.
Okay, so that's where setting the dial frequency at 9.999 comes in.
Right.
Okay.
And that moves the carrier from 10 megahertz down to 1 kilohertz. The deltas are all the same. I mean, if the carrier moves 1 hertz at 10 megahertz, it's going to move 1 hertz out of 1 kilohertz, which is a whole lot easier to see.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's why you do it.
Okay. So, and using Audacity is probably the easiest to interpolate once it's sent into the whoever.
Well, Audacity will just record a wave file. But if you recorded that, then you could always play it back into a spectrum analyzer later to look at the Doppler shift.
Okay, so but as far as things go, I don't need anything special as far as a recording medium. A 32 gig SDR would do just as well if I could just port it into that, or just make a WAV file on Audacity.
Right. And the WAV file, you don't need more than 11025 or so. I mean, you could record it at 48 or 44.1, makes big files. mean, you're looking at 1 kilohertz. You don't really need a lot of sample rate.
Okay, what would be the optimal sample rate?
Well, if you want to record a nice long run, like hours worth of recording, you save a lot of file size by going down to like 8 kilosamples, or 11.025 is a standard sample rate.
11.025.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I can set that up. And then that'll all just transfer from Audacity as a WAV file, and then I can just send that up to who is going to be the collection point.
Oh, that's one of the things we're gonna talk about, is where we're gonna collect files and stuff. That's on the topics today.
Right, well, is anybody else going to be in Corpus? Okay. I was I'm waiting, as I say, I was going to try the Lexington, but I'm waiting to get a telephone call back to see if anybody's going to show up that Saturday morning. The one thing that I did hear is that it is a very noisy RF environment. Even though it's a museum ship, apparently there is just all kinds of noise, and he said that may be a factor. So I'm going to go there Friday and take a listen and see what it sounds like. If not, I've got arrangements made with the manager at the Hampton Inn that I'm staying out, that I can set the antenna and the radio under a canopy umbrella out on the pool deck, and just have a shaded place with electricity. That's all I need. So I am.
All right. Well, hopefully you got some good advice and a little bit of direction today, John, from the other folks on the call. So look forward to seeing that.
Okay.
Okay. I'd like to jump into the Solar Eclipse QSO party a little bit. Nathaniel had suggested, and we hemmed and hawed a little bit, but he came up with a great idea. So on that same weekend, when we're worrying about the eclipse, there's going to be 4 other QSO parties on the air: Pennsylvania, Arizona, South Dakota, and I think one other one. I'm trying to remember who the other is, but anyway, there's 4 of them. And especially the guys in Pennsylvania are going to be making a lot of QSOs. A lot of them would like to enter the SEQP, but they're pretty competitive, so they're going to stick to their Pennsylvania event, which is fine, but they want to contribute somehow. So what we've got going with Bruce Horn, WA7BNM, who's writing the log upload robots, he's going to give us actually 2 upload links. One is for the true SEQP participants to upload SEQP logs. That's pretty standard. That's going to work out really well. He's going to give us a second link to upload what we call in the contesting world check logs. The exchange may not exactly match what's going on in our contest. I'm sure they won't. The times of operation won't exactly match what's going on in our contest, but that's okay, because we don't score a check log. We just want to accept their log file, and number 1, so we can potentially use it for analysis. Number 2 is those individuals will then get a participation certificate. And if I can show the screen, Nathaniel's other thing that he was working on in his spare time with the folks at Scranton is our participation certificate. And that's what it's going to look like for the October event. That fits in really well with our logo that's been on the website since earlier in the year. So anyhow, I think we've got that figured out. Here we go: PA, Arizona, South Dakota, and Nevada. Now, the way Bruce's website works is it can only accept specific contests, and he needs to know what those contests are ahead of time. So if somebody's on an SKCC weekend POTA event or something like that and create the log with a few QSOs in it, we won't be able to accept that. He's gonna limit the logs to these 4 QSO parties, because there's specific identifiers and other things that he has to check against. But we're definitely going to catch the big activity that weekend of these 4 parties. So any questions on accepting those other logs? All right. So one other thing
was a comment there. I was at the Murgos Club meeting last night, and K2LNS Herb Krumich, who is fairly well known in the contest community, I think, he suggested that when we get this up, we let I send an email to Bud Trench AA3B and have Bud and put a blurb out and encourage all the PAQ people to also submit to here. So I can do that. Let me know when we know that the link is good, because I don't want to send the blurb out before we're like, okay, it's good. But if you let me know when the link is good, I'll email Bud Trench. I'll probably CC you, Gary, and CC Herb.
Yeah, and if you got it, if you got it out, I also have a contest club list. Okay, so I could move it to that list, after I know that you sent it to Bud. So
That's
Right.
great.
okay.
This is Ed, and I am in Pennsylvania. I'm interested in knowing if the Maidenhead grid square is really important, or if we're going to use something like the QRZ reference license site as the location of the transmissions.
So what
Now,
I
you
did
asked- Go ahead.
what I did in the last contest, the last SEQP, in which I anticipate, and I'm going to tell our data analysts to work on again, is you're going to come up with an order of trust of these locations. So the first thing we should trust is a log that was submitted to the SEQP, and there should be like some cross-checking between what you put in the metadata when you actually do the upload on the web form versus what's in the log versus what people report in the QSOs themselves. So basically, if we see your call sign and we can get a grid square latitude longitude from a log first, we're going to trust that more than we would trust QRZ. If we can't find you in one of these other logs, then we're going to go to QRZ as a last resort.
That's cool.
Yeah, so bottom line, when people upload their logs, that'll be one of the questions. What is your grid square? And as Nathaniel said, that'll be in the metadata. So go after each operator, ask what their grid square is, and record that. That's the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me flip over to Safari real quick. Let's see, okay, so one of the things that we say, a couple of our contests, but especially the GSSC here, it should be shown on my screen. We encourage people for bonus multipliers to upload PDF files and some various different things. And we've not, at least I'm not familiar with the process for going about doing that. I mean, where do these things go? I mean, we need to give people a link. How do we collect this kind of stuff?
Now that is a good question. So in 2017, I had a student write a custom log uploader, and that custom log uploader allowed people to upload those things to the log upload system. And then when it came time for scoring, what I did was I had a SQL database that had all that information in there, and I was able to write a Python script that would just check to see if someone uploaded a file. And I did some sort of a sanity check where I did dump all the files out, and I opened them all up and looked to see if they were like reasonable or not. But basically, my code just checked to see if it, was submitted with a custom uploader, and then it gave them the bonus points. This is actually going to be harder to do now that we're using. So since we're using Bruce's form, that's just taking the Cabrillo files and not taking these things, that's going to be harder to do. Let's see. One possibility is we could set up something like a Microsoft Office form that I think some of those might allow you to upload files, and we could have people say, if you have these extra files, go upload them here, and then we'll have to do the scoring manually based on those upload files. Another option is to have them upload everything to Zenodo, and then it's publicly archived, so that's an advantage there. And then but it might be, trying to get that in a format where everyone does that correctly. That could be tricky. Thoughts?
Yeah, I also looked into, I wanted to use a Google form, especially for the Gladstone challenge, because we're really not uploading logs. We're just after station and participant identification. And you can attach files to that, but somebody has to log into a Google account to do that, which is not everybody's going to have one of those. So that's got its pluses and minuses too.
Yeah. We could try the same thing with Microsoft Forms. I don't know if they force you to have a Microsoft account in order to do attachments there or not. I know the University of Scranton's a Microsoft shop, so that would go on to basically our Microsoft account.
I could dig into that a little bit. I'm sure I don't have any kind of Microsoft account at all. I don't have any of their software anywhere, but
well, that's not entirely true. Did we get you in a, I forget, did we get you in a University of Scranton R number?
well, I know I was on the wireless during the workshop. That's all I remember so far as IT infrastructure.
Okay, maybe we might not have done that, because some people we've actually gotten like Scranton email addresses for, and then I think you have access to some of these things. Yeah. I mean, maybe tonight I could try drafting up a form and we can test it.
Yeah, I can dig into their documentation a little bit too, and so I'm familiar with it as well.
I can try even doing it now.
Okay.
Office.com. And I might be able to start a form and then make you an editor on it. And then you could finish it up with well, I'll keep playing with that. You keep going on for now, and I'll come back to me in a few minutes and let me see if I can.
All right. Yeah, we'll work on that a little bit. The next thing I had on the list, I know, Steve, is there anything you want to talk about on your TDOA event, other than I know you've obviously got a dry run coming up on this Saturday again, I think, right?
Sure. On the one we had before, we had 12 folks check in. Some just stopped by to say hi. But Paul and I exchanged waveforms on all bands from 80 through 20. And 20 picked up quite a few people that checked in, and I received, let's see, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 logs there. I could show you some of the data if you'd like for me to share the screen here.
Sure.
That would be here. So this is one of the chirps that's just sent right across the room. No time difference of arrival, because there's no two pass, no multipath. And this starts out life as a square shape, and these ramps up and down. That's what the audio processing in radios does. This is just the audio passband of my radio and his radio combined. Well, I mean, my two radios, one across the room here. This is a 7610 to an R8600. This little blip here at the start, that's where the chirp starts. That's essentially DC. And you don't.
Hello.
Say again?
If you want to be iced, just forgive the time to do it for me. Okay, thanks. I'm in a conference call right now. It'll be over by 5.
Okay, so right here is where you finally make it into the pass bands. This is 100 hertz or so, and then it's flat for a while, and then it tapers off at the other end. So when you get multipath coming in, for example, here's one from KD8RV on 20 meters. That envelope looks like it gets modulated. That's the beat note that we're after, that if you process that, you can get the time difference of arrival of the two modes that make it. Haven't had a chance to analyze these completely. Usually the dominant two modes are one in first hop and second hop. Here is, let's see, here's one from W30A, also on 20 meters, similar type picture. Here's one from Doug in California, W6KE, also on 20 meters. And of course, we've seen a lot of data on the lower frequency bands, and it all looks real good too. So that's up and going. Nathaniel, where do we stand on getting the chirp or the beat note detector usable so I could start analyzing some of these?
I'm gonna have to keep working on that.
Okay.
Send me another email to remind me.
Sure, no problem. So anyway, I think it's all looking pretty good. A buddy of mine lives only a few kilometers away, Sam, and we're talking about trying a little different wrinkle on this. He's so close that the only possibility for multi-mode would be a ground wave and maybe a Nevis mode, straight up, straight down. Or if the ionosphere is good enough, maybe, and we'll try it on all bands, maybe 2 hops. You see these on ionosons all the time, up and down, where it just reverberates from the ground up to the ionosphere. So we're going to try some experiments from a guy that's just literally down the street from me and see if we can see some of that stuff going on. Another interesting wrinkle, Tom, K1FR, he downloaded his waveform from the GitHub site, and lo and behold, if it didn't have a pseudo-random noise burst at the front of it. And he was asking me about that. I thought at first he had downloaded the WWV waveform, but he said, no, because the last part of it does have my chirps on it. So I don't know who I have to thank for adding a PN burst on the front, but I like it. That PN sequence is one of the things I wanted to try. Initially, I wrote that up in all of the original proposals when we started out even thinking about doing TDOA to watch the ionosphere. I went with chirps because, as the picture shows here, you can actually read them just by looking at a wave file and using the calibrated time marker. You can decode it without any special software. If you're going to decode a PN burst, you have to have some correlating software. And I didn't have any of that. And but apparently Tom did. So he's taken that. I've been working with him and asked him to do a few experiments. And looky here, he recorded 2 copies of it with a time delay, a 2 millisecond time delay. And here are the 2 correlation peaks, 2 milliseconds apart. Then he added some noise, and here they are again. So Tom and I are going to work together and do not just chirps, but a PN sequence and see how that looks. Does anybody know anything about how that PN burst got added to the waveform? Christina doesn't seem to know because she doesn't think it's been modified in 7 months, and I downloaded mine just last month and it didn't have it. So it's fairly recent. Maybe Aiden did it.
Well, you should, if you look at, it's on GitHub, right?
Yep.
So I mean, GitHub has the commit log on there, so you can see who's modified the code when.
Okay. Well, it doesn't really matter, but I like it. I like another way of doing it. I mean, look how clean these peaks are. Admittedly, this is an idealized situation, but I'd sure like to see how this stacks up and compare them with the other one. Okay, so that's it. I know we're busy today, but we got another dry run coming up Saturday. Same thing. We're going to start on the low bands and work all the way to 20 meters. We're going to do 80, 40, 60, and 20 over the span of an hour.
I think what I'm struggling with right now, Steve, is I'm totally saturated with work that I have to do, all sorts. And I think I don't know how much more time I can spend right now on doing that. I really want, what I'd love to do is I'd love to get a student, to work with you on it, but I have to find another student and ramp them up, and that's going to be a challenge. So.
Well, I'll be glad to work with them. Unfortunately, I just got crazy busy too with a number of things.
Yeah.
But I'll be glad to work with somebody and direct them on what to do with the code.
I mean, I can, so I teach a digital signal processing class, so I can offer that to them. I could also potentially, you know, I want to have some sort of a project for the class, and I wonder if there's a fair way for me to say, hey, if someone does this project, chooses this project, you know, they get project credit for the class, and then they'd be doing it for credit. So I think Mary Lou likes this.
Yeah, I like that idea. And give them an A right away.
That's a great incentive.
So
I like
I think let me think about how to do that fairly. And I will yeah, maybe I can get a couple students working on
We're
it.
so close. I mean, all we really need to do is get some grid lines on that final plot so we can read it.
Yeah, I mean yes. And that should not be too hard. Still send me another email what you want again done on it, and if it's not that hard, I may be able to just do it myself. But I still do want to try to find well, some of these things, I know Mary Lou's saying no, but some of these things I really can do in like 15 minutes, and it'll take someone else, you know, 3 months, and it may not be done as well as when I do it in 15 minutes. So send me one more email with what you want on it, and I'm gonna try and see if I can do it reasonably quickly. And then let me also think about seeing if how I can integrate this in with the class.
I mean, it is so close. And I could literally take what we have and just take a caliper and measure, you know, make my own gradical. But all you have to do is draw a grid on there, or do a peak search. I'll send it to you.
Okay. And actually, if you think of it, if you want to come up with, if you can think of I have 12 students in this DSP class. Hey, Gerard, yeah, come here.
Ta-da!
I've got one of them right here. This is Gerard. Hello. Gerard's a student in my DSP class. He's also an extra class ham. If you can come up with some reasonable course project where we'd have the DSP students analyzing your chirp data, and we can make it due, you know, beginning of December. I'll be happy to give that to the DSP students as their course project.
Cool.
So if you want to come up with an idea of how you'd want them to do this analysis, what do you think, Gerard? Yeah, he's amenable.
Yeah, Gerard, just say yes. Just say yes.
Yes.
I tell my class, you know, when I pressure them to do things, I tell them it's not peer pressure, it's superior pressure. So we have so you're getting superior
peer pressure.
Superior peer pressure, yeah. No, but I think this could make a really, really excellent DSP course project. Because like if you collect all the wave files, and you can say how you want them analyzed, I can then give them out to the students. I can tell them to pair up. They work into twos, and then they have to each do some sort of analysis on the wave files and write a report about it.
You know, I could probably gather up all the stuff and make a trip up there and either do it in person or do it on a Zoom meeting here.
If you want to come do it in person, I can pay for your trip.
Well, it sounds like a done deal.
Oh, there we go. That sounds great. So let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right. Back to net.
All right. That sounds like real progress. It's good to hear all that. Anything else in the TDOE, Steve, or is that good for now?
That's good.
Okay, great. This is usually the part of the call where we talk about the science topics at all. Nathaniel, is there anything to bring up at this point, or maybe after the eclipses?
I think after the, well, I guess, you know, one thing that was, well, first of all, I think we had some good science discussion right here with Steve, which I think is really good. Secondly, someone brought up an interesting point on the HamSci list the other day. There was someone who asked, with the eclipse, are we going to see gray line propagation? And, you know, I thought that was an interesting question, because I never really thought of it as gray line propagation because it's a circle. But, you know, there has been recent work on like if you look at the Sam Lowe et al. Paper that came out last year that used WhisperNet to look at gray line propagation, there's probably ideas in there about like what really is gray line propagation, how does it work? And if we could pull out some of those ideas from that paper, we might be able to convert it and say, okay, what would these ideas look like during an eclipse? And maybe that's something we can test. So
levels, especially at low frequencies, are going to get bigger because delay absorption is going to go down. We saw that last time on 60 kilohertz, 5 megs.
I agree with that.
Separate the effects.
Right.
What is gray and what is just less absorption?
Right. Yes, exactly. That's what I mean. So what do we actually mean by gray line? Does that just mean less absorption, or does it mean something else? And if it's just
gray
less
line is the wave getting trapped by one phenomenon on the high side and different on the left side, and it tends to duck down the middle, right?
I think so. That's kind of my understanding. But I think yeah. But I think it'd be worth reading the Sam Lowe et al. Paper again more closely and trying to think about how what they were doing there and what they say gray line is, how that might relate to the eclipse.
Do you have a citation for that paper?
Oh yeah, sure. It's open access. So I can, if you I will put the link in the chat in a minute, but if you go to scholar.google.com, if you type in whisper and gray line spelled with an E, it's the first article that comes up. So, oh, and Gareth is here too. Great. So there, the link is in the chat, so you can read all about gray line there. Hey Gareth, how are you?
I'm good. Sorry I'm late. I had a student come asking questions about E&M and stuff, so
Oh, that's fun.
I have to prioritize students. So
yes, understandable. We were just talking about science issues with the eclipse and asking if we had anything. I said that one of the things that came out on the listserv was asking, do you see gray line propagation effects during eclipse? Did you hear like last 5 minutes? I couldn't see when you came on.
I heard the last 5 minutes, yeah, and I saw that email. And yeah, I guess I'm not as familiar with gray line propagation. I thought it was more kind of the ducting along in between gray. It's not quite ducting, but yeah.
Right. That's my.
I have to review it.
Right. So that's kind of how I felt about it too. But and that's what
the delayer going away on one side and ionization remaining on the other.
So I was suggesting we read. So Sam Lowe et al., who is a PhD student of Catherine Mitchell, who, if people aren't aware, Catherine Mitchell is very well regarded. She's a PhD director of the graduate program over at the University of Bath. Very well regarded. Her student Sam Lowe did a study on gray line using WhisperNet and published it last year. I just put that link in the chat, and it would be interesting to read that paper, read what they say gray line is and what it isn't, and then see if we can apply any of those ideas to the data we get from the eclipse. Also, in terms of science, Gareth, how are we doing in terms of hiring a postdoc?
So we've interviewed several candidates. We're selecting our candidates now, and I was hoping by tomorrow we'd start looking at references and making informal offers, but that's probably going to come early next week because it's a group of 3 of us, and one of them's on the way back from a group of 3 of faculty members that are hiring from a common pool, I guess you could say, and one of them's on the way back from Africa at the moment, so they're kind of indisposed. So they're out of contact, and they're probably going to be, fried for the next day or two. So
very understandable, because I think one of the timelines, I'm on the hook for giving 2 presentations at AGU about the eclipse, and of course, they said something about early results from the October eclipse and what we're going to do for the April eclipse, and I'm hoping that the postdoc can be hired in time that we might be able to get them to help with some of the early analysis, just get some feel of
Yeah.
What was submitted, and can we see anything that we can flash on the screen at AGU and say, hey, look at this, it was interesting and successful, we'll get back to you more next year. But
Right. Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But remember, remember in 2017 when they had this special session for the eclipse and everybody started showing their data from the August 2017 eclipse at the December 2017 AGU meeting, and it ended up being a here's my data. I don't understand what's going on with it.
yes,
Check back in a year kind of thing. So
well, that's pretty much how I expect this talk to go. But it'd be nice to be able to say, okay, we had this many QSOs and this many people participate, and
yeah,
but still just be able to
and
get
we
up
see
on,
this thing wiggle, and that's the eclipse.
yeah, so get
Yeah.
to get up on the stage and be able to say something at least that much. And I think even doing
Yeah.
I think doing that, if we can get the postdoc hired sooner rather than later, it'll be a really good introduction for them to at least kind of know what our data set is. If they can do something where they're like, okay, there's this many QSOs, and we can kind of tell, we can't really see the exact signature yet, but we can kind of get some sort of feel, and then that'll set them off and running for April, and for doing analysis afterward, and for writing that proposal that's doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So there's a lot to do.
Yeah. There's a lot to do. December is going to be tomorrow. It feels like it's tomorrow already. So
it does, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess that's it for the science there, Gary. I guess another thing that's coming up is we have that Gary, you, me, Gareth, we're going to be hanging out in Leesburg, Virginia, at a resort together in November, right?
You got it.
That's right. So
Looking
Yeah,
forward
the
to it.
NASA folks are promoting their citizen science projects, right? And they want to make sure we're doing it correctly, I think.
That's right. So in the week of November 15th, there's going to be a citizen science conference called SciAct, Science Activation, and NASA has a big part of it, and they want the NASA citizen science projects to show up and represent themselves there. So Gary, myself, and Gareth, and maybe somebody else, we don't know who, but at least us, we're planning on attending and waving the ham sci flag.
Yeah, I think I know you're there part of the week, Nathaniel. I'm going to be there. So it's my wife's birthday on the Sunday, and then it's my son's birthday on the Friday. So the longest I'll be there is Monday to Thursday. My plan right now is to maybe fly out early Monday morning to get there, because I could get there by 8 o'clock or something like that. So, and then I'll leave Thursday evening or something.
So I'm planning on driving. It's only like 4 hours away. So I'm gonna drive out. I'm gonna teach my class, my DSP class. Hear that, Gerard? You're not getting out of that DSP class. I'm gonna teach my DSP class on Wednesday. That finishes at noon, and then I'll head straight down, and I will stay there through Friday. So that Friday DSP class will get canceled. So I'll be there like Wednesday evening, Thursday, and Friday. So hopefully Wednesday night I can have dinner with you two and whoever else is there, and we can chat, and then we can tag up on Thursday.
Okay, that sounds good.
Great. And then Gary, I'll probably let me know what you need in terms of banners or stuff, and then we'll work on getting them shipped out to you.
Okay. Yeah, the interesting thing is the government's continuing funding resolution runs out that Friday, so the NASA folks should be there throughout the week. That's all I was worried about.
Yeah, that's gonna be
sad state of affairs.
And we got the ARDC grant proposal in asking for funding for the ham sci workshop this March. So that got submitted On Sunday, we're now working on the NSF proposal, which we hope to get submitted very soon. So hopefully they can act on it before the government shuts down in mid-November. And then we are, let's see, there's something else. Yeah, so, oh yeah, Scott McIntosh, who does the solar cycle 25 prediction, he accepted today to be the keynote speaker. So
Oh, great.
he accepted our invitation to be keynote speaker. And then Dr. Kate Zoddy from the Naval Research Laboratory, she is going to be giving an invited tutorial on ray tracing on Saturday. So we're starting to get our invited speakers list, you know, nicely filled out there. So this is good. Now back to that.
Okay, awesome. Lots of stuff going on. Well, that about had it for covered everything for the SEQP that I had first. So I think we filled up our hour pretty well. One thing, if you've got 5 minutes, Nathaniel, I was going to want you to take a quick look at the Grape One contributors page. I got that put together based on your notes from last August, believe it or not.
Thanks. That sounds great.
Okay. So yeah, everybody's welcome to stay put. We can probably end the recording, but everyone have a good week, and 9 days of the eclipse, right? So getting pretty close.
All right. 7-3.
73 all.
73 all.